The $7.5 billion water bond proposition, $2.7 billion is allocated to water storage projects. Just over $1.5 billion is allocated to projects that generate more water for California, from desalination plants to water recycling technologies and a weather controlling machine. $1.5 billion for environmental implications, other $1.4 billion to improving water quality. A small portion of the fund, flood protection. Many of these funds require matching funds. Likely less than $3 billion from these funds would go to projects that actually increase the water that we have available in a given year. This would be a roughly 0.23% increase in state spending. Does not actually have any real solutions to our water shortage problems. There is not a clear consensus among Californians as to what course of action is needed to grant our state water sustainability. Changes to the budget stabilization account. California stores up to 3% of its annual general fund revenue each year. This law would decrease that number to a minimum of 1.5%, redirect half of those funds to pay off existing state debt. Between 5 and 6% of the state budget is currently used for paying off debt, and this proposition would likely increase that number, allow for increased funds to be transferred to the budget stabilization account in years where capital gains taxes account for more than 8% of our state income tax. It would prevent us from using the funds unless we actually needed them for increases the maximum cap on the account. 10% of the state budget is still less than the cuts that resulted from the recent recession. It would not have been enough to protect us from all the cuts we had to make. Two would add a new statewide school reserve fund. Would not have been enough to cushion the cuts from this last recession. The restrictions passed with this proposition will make it more difficult for schools to stay funded during years when education spending is cut. Expanding the role of the state insurance commissioner. These organizations review health insurance rates, but even they don't have the authority to reject proposed health insurance premiums. This proposition would give that authority to the state insurance commissioner. This authority would be given only over individual or small group employer insurance policies. By imposing additional fees on insurance companies, rates could potentially be affected retroactively. The California Insurance Exchange, recently created, already approves insurance costs that are sold through the exchange. It creates redundancy, with both Covered California and the California Insurance Commissioner negotiating for lower premiums, preventing insurance companies from using credit score or coverage history in selling policies to customers. Law already effectively prevents this. Changes to a variety of unrelated medical items. Raising the maximum cap for certain malpractice lawsuits, requiring all doctors to use a database for monitoring patient use of certain narcotics. Mandatory drug screening for healthcare professionals. This proposition would increase that cap to $1.1 million. There are estimates that the contribution of things like malpractice insurance and malpractice lawsuits account for roughly 2% of total medical costs in the United States. That the increase in medical costs resulting from this cap increasing could be somewhere in the range of 0.5%. But if you think that a parent should receive more than $250,000 for losing a child due to medical malpractice, passing this proposition will allow for that. The goal is to prevent the overprescription of certain drugs to drug addicts and dealers. This law would require all doctors to use the database. Approximately 10 to 15% of all healthcare professionals will misuse drugs or alcohol at some point in their career. To be clear, doctors already are administered drug tests whenever there is some reason to suspect abuse. This proposition would make the random drug testing of doctors mandatory. Many lawyers are highly supportive of this proposition. Doctors and insurance companies, on the other hand, are quite critical of the proposal. Increased risk may motivate hospitals to increase safety measures and ensure better patient care. Using the Cures database will take it is not likely to increase medical costs by more than 2% changes into sentencing laws for certain felonies. All of these crimes would now be considered solely misdemeanors and would no longer be punishable as felonies. Would not apply to someone with a previous conviction of some other serious or violent felony. While this is typically already the practice of district attorneys, there are thousands of convicted felons who will have to have their sentences reviewed and may possibly be released from their sentences early. That prevents resentencing in the case of criminals who, quote, pose an unreasonable risk of danger to public safety. It will not save California any money, merely redirect it. There is no guarantee that the state will see any increase in spending for these programs. A referendum on an agreement to build a new casino near Madera. The North Fork Rancheria tribe requested permission to acquire some land near Madera to build a casino away from their reservation, initially finalized in 2012. The North Fork tribe will direct some of the revenue from the casino in Madera to the Wiyot tribe. It really comes down to the question of whether or not you want a casino in that area.